Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, the good news from number 10, and today's part 2 of the story yesterday, forgiveness and remember me. So let's just have a little quick recap on yesterday from where we left off. Yesterday we spoke about the betrayal of Joseph from his brothers, how he got put into slavery and sold into Potiphar's as a slave, and then got accused of rape and went to jail. And then after he was in jail, he met the two other servants who had dreams what was troubling them. So God even used him in the jail, and God can use us in our bad times. Do you ever feel like you're taking 5 steps forward and 100 backwards, feeling that you can't get nowhere and things are always going against you and going wrong, and feel like giving up? But when we look at the story now of Joseph, we've got nothing to worry about. He still stayed faithful, and look where he got him. He was nearly killed by his own brothers and then put into slavery. And so through this story of Joseph, we will be reminded of God's providence and guidance of Joseph's path, even through the darkest of times. We will see how God's work all things together for good for those who trust in him, and when we use God in all circumstances, it's certainly overwhelming. So don't miss the opportunity to draw valuable insights from this story, guys, of Joseph. And it can be applied to our lives as well if we trust in him. We just don't seem to ask him and bother with him. If we call on Jesus, his name, he'll answer. And now I want to look at Luke. If we go to Luke 23:39, when he was hanging on the cross, when they nailed him to the cross with the 2 thieves, and one of them started to blaspheme him, and he shouted out to him, do you, if you're the Messiah, if you're who you say you are, prove it to us and save us. And the other thief turned around and said, don't you fear God, even when you have been sentenced to die when you deserve it, when we deserve it for our crimes. But this man doesn't, and he's done nothing wrong. Then he said, Jesus, remember me. Wow, he prayed the prayer again. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And then Jesus turns to him and said to him, and Jesus replied, I assure you today you will be in paradise with me. Well, look at that, guys. That's the power of Jesus. Even that prayer, and that's why I've done the sermon today about remember me, and stay connected and stay in prayer and positive. When you stay positive and focused and don't give up on your dreams, they will come true. I've got a short clip here to watch.
I used to spend the night in hotel parking lots. What was I going to do? I ain't had nowhere to stay, so I lived in the car. I had $35. And I said, come on, God, man, I've been trying to make this dream come true. You done left me out here like this. And I was crying so hard that he just said, I didn't hear a voice or nothing, but he spoke to me, and however he said, if you get up, I'm gonna take you places you ain't never been. Now I was finna quit. So I said, skip it. I'm gonna quit anyway. So I got in my car, I went to a payphone, and I was gonna call my dad. You remember back in the day where you could punch in a code and call your answering machine and get your messages? So I called and I punched in the code, and it said, doop. He said, hey Steve, this is Chuck Sutton with Showtime at the Apollo. We saw a tape of you. You're very funny. If you could get here Sunday night, we'd love to put you on television. Call me back. Let me know if you can make it. So I hung the phone up. I'm crushed because my whole dream of being on TV, and I couldn't get to New York. I got $35. How I'm gonna get to New York? I can't make it. So I'm standing there at the phone booth and tears just coming down my face. I said, God, so that must be a sign for me to go home. Cause this it, I ain't even got the money to go to the Apollo. My whole thing, I wanted to be on TV, I couldn't even make the dream come true. This is the most messed up moment. And so I said, man, let me call this dude back and see if he said this Sunday. Because maybe he said next Sunday and I can hustle up a little bit of money or something. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but let me just call him back. So I called him back. Steve, this is Chuck Sutton, Showtime at the Apollo. We saw a tape of yours. You're very, very funny. Look, we have an opening Sunday night at Showtime at the Apollo. If you can make it, we'd love to put you on TV. I said, it's this Sunday. Before I hit the button, I heard, doop, you have another message. Now, it wasn't there before. So I punched my code in. I listened to the second message. It said, Steve Harvey, this is Tom Sobel from the Comedy Caravan. This was a Thursday. He said, I have a gig in Jacksonville, Florida on Friday night that pays $150. If you can get there Friday night, you'll make $150. So I called him back and I said, hey, Tom, did you get a gig away? He said, no, it's still available. He said, can you get there? I said, I'm in Pensacola, Florida. I'm 3.5 hours away. So I drive to Jacksonville, Florida, and that night I made the 150. The club owner said, man, you funnier than the guy we hired. If you stay tomorrow night, I'm gonna give you another $150. So now I got $300 now. So I get on the phone, I call Chuck Sutton. I say, hey man, is the gig still available at Showtime at the Apollo? He said, yeah, we got one opening left. I said, I'll be there. So I called Eastern Airlines, who used to be open back then. They had a special for $99 going from Jacksonville, Florida to New York round trip. So I parked my car at the airport. I got it. Got on plane, flew. Everything I had was in 2 bags. Got to the Apollo. I said, hey man, I'm here. I got there at 11 o'clock in the morning. He said, you can't stay here because you don't come on to the late show tonight. I said, man, I ain't got nowhere to go. I said, if you just let me stay in this building, man, I ain't gonna move around nothing. I ain't got nowhere to go. I'm in Harlem, I can't go back out here. I got these 2 bags. I got victim wrote all over me, man. So he said, all right, if you go upstairs, don't come down. So he put me in the dressing room on the 6th floor. So that's where all the comedians was. So I stayed up there. I got hungry around 3 o'clock, man. I couldn't take it no more. So I went back downstairs, a dude named Alton Liston. I said, hey man, he said, man, I thought I told you, don't come down them damn steps. I said, hey man, I'm just hungry, man. I said, let me go to that KFC I saw on the corner. Just let me get some chicken. I'll come right back. He said, man, if you ain't back in 20 minutes, you ain't getting in this building. So I went, bought me some chicken, came back. So the comedians started coming in the building. They started coming up on the 6th floor. So I meet this guy named D.L. Hughley. I introduced myself, he introduced himself. Then this other dude walked in named Jamie Foxx. And I introduced myself. We don't know each other, ain't none of us famous. It's 1991, man. They gave everybody the lineup. I was on the last show of the night. I don't go on to 11 at night. I done had this 4 pieces of chicken. I'm starving, man. That chicken done wore off. I'm nervous, man. I'm about to throw up. D.L. Hughley went downstairs. D.L. Hughley got booed off. Jamie Foxx went down there and got booed. They booed Jamie, then Jamie started singing. And then they started clapping. And Jamie had their ass, then he went back to them jokes and they got his ass. So I'm walking down the steps and I see Jamie sitting on the steps. I said, hey man, hang in there. He said, man, that ain't never happened to me before, man. This is crazy. This Jamie Foxx, man, one of the most talented people in all of comedy. And now, you don't even know how nervous I am, man. I can't even, my breathing is shot because these dudes been booed. So I walk out, I had wrote this joke that his eyes started talking and was just, I tell you what happened. The heavyweight champ's fist is coming towards my face. I just said, Lord, Lord, Lord. And I wrote this whole joke about this dude's eyeball talking. And when the punch came, and all this here, the Apollo, man, they went crazy. They lost their mind. I got a standing ovation, man. I walked off stage, man, just started crying. I couldn't believe it. They paid me. I made $750 for being on TV for one night. I'd never made $750 telling jokes in one night. And so that was my first television appearance. A couple weeks later, Sinbad was the host of the show. He got this job on a different world. And so he quit. And so Mark Curry became the host. And then Mark Curry got hanging with Mr. Cooper and he quit. And they came to me and said, would you come back to New York and host amateur night for us to just try you out? Oh, ain't no problem. And so I went to New York, I hosted amateur night and I was killing. But every time we went to commercial break, I was supposed to let the warm-up act take over like Ruben does. But I knew not to let the warm-up act do that because he would change the attitude of the crowd because the Apollo was a wild place. So I stayed out there. I did the warm-up and the hosting. And I created a bond with that audience. And that's how I got on TV. It was my very first TV show. I hosted Showtime at the Apollo. I ended up being the longest running host in the history of Showtime Apollo. I did that show for 8 years. Nobody ever did it for 8 years. And that was my turn back moment. See, in your life, everybody has a turn back moment. You have a moment where you could go forward or you can give up. But the thing you have to keep in mind before you give up is that if you give up, the guarantee is it will never happen. That's the guarantee of quitting, that it will never happen, no way under the sun. The only way the possibility remains that it can happen is if you never give up no matter what. Because God is always coming. He's never too late. At your worst moment, look, man, when they told me I had to be in New York, I saw no way I could get there. But that God, though, he make the phone ring. I end up in Florida, I make $300. Then I go to New York, I make $750. Almost got $1,000 out of nowhere. That's what happened to me. That was my moment of never giving up. That's when I first learned that faith was everything, that you have to remain faithful.
Never give up, guys. Never give up. I hope you got something from that. Just shows if we feel like giving up, it's a good job that God doesn't give up on us. Well, God never feels too tired and fed up and can't be bothered, just like us. And yeah, it's amazing what God can do. So yeah, keep this story in mind, and Joseph, and remember, your dream's gonna come true as well, and prosper. All things come together with God. But we have to put God in the centre first. Almost done now, guys. So as we get towards the end of Joseph's story, we can see how his plan didn't happen overnight. It was over years, and it even took over 2 years for the cupbearer to actually remember him. But even then, he only remembered it after Pharaoh himself had a dream that none of his wise men could interpret. and the cupbearer actually remembered Joseph's gift then of being able to interpret the dreams, and he mentioned him. So then they brought Joseph before Pharaoh, who Joseph then, he said, tell me your dream and I'll interpret it. Even then he could have said and been bitter that you put me in jail and falsely accused me, but he never. He just carried on and still showed love of God's plan, and interpreted the dream, and then Pharaoh was really impressed with it, what he said, and he warned Pharaoh about a famine, what was coming, a 7-year famine, and he was well inspired, so he reanointed Joseph and appointed him second in demand over all the land, with the authority overseeing all of it. So his plan came true as well, guys, and it's a remarkable story, it really is, and it's well worth studying and putting a bit of time into that, and just looking back on our own lives and not giving up and just getting into it and being faithful and still remember me, and just remembering that word, that we're not forgotten by Jesus, and that's all that matters. And yeah, thanks for listening, guys. I hope it's something you enjoy. If you got any topics you want me to cover, let me know. And I think I'm something on Daniel next, about the dream of Daniel, prophecy of Daniel, of how good it really was and how correct. So stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed, please like and subscribe and share it. It really helps, and it will get the channel off the ground with me.